Welcome to Project Activity 2 vlog from Team Worf. Our app idea is now named ShareNote. We'll start off with the business case, which will also serve as a project idea refresher. Basically, ShareNote is intended to be a note-taking app that makes sharing notes seamless and keeps all of a student's important notes in one convenient and organized place. Sharing notes is currently tedious and cumbersome, and notes are no longer only from the lecturer. Sometimes they can be found in the depths of Discord chat rooms. These are the two opportunities that ShareNote will look to improve and capitalize on. There are two options we considered in implementing a solution. Option 1, a native mobile and desktop app implementation, and option 2, a web-based application. The cost-benefit analysis shows that option 1 is considerably more expensive, a much larger undertaking and a riskier project to take on if we hope to meet deadlines, while option 2 is cheaper, quicker, more within our realm, and ultimately implements a solution that is more accessible over any device with an internet connection. For those and more detailed reasons outlined in this documentation, we have chosen to move forward with this project by means of option 2. Next up, we'll move on to the project charter.
Okay, so for the project charter, we have come up with a few things, such as the project goals. Our goal is to develop a web app where we can, or the user can easily take notes and share them. The objectives of our project are to facilitate easy note taking, accessing, viewing, and also we can employ features or ways that can prevent cheating. The budget of our project is random, and it just includes resources and tools that we are going to use. Our project sponsor is Tim, and the project manager is Alok, who is also a developer for this project. Additional key project stakeholders would be Tim, who is the sponsor, who will assign tasks and check with the progress, and the educators and students who will use the features and to take and share notes. For the project milestones, we have just picked up some dates where we expect to complete the milestone, such as building an MVP and then employing a feature to share, and then building a version 2.0 after testing and receiving recommendations. There are some risks for this project, such as the team might not be able to meet the deadlines, and if there are so many users simultaneously using the website, then it may crash. Also, there would be security features, but it still would be used to cheat in some way or the other, so that is a risk as well. Next, we will move to the stakeholder register and the stakeholder engagement plan.
So you already heard this before, but the main three project stakeholders that we're dealing with are Tim, of course, the students, and the educators. In terms of Tim, we decided to put Tim's level of interest as high because he's the one, grading and marking and providing guidance for our project. And all of these scrums and the meetings and the criticism he's providing is support. In terms of our other two groups, we put students as high because they are our main user base, but for the rest of all of the other parameters, they're just mostly neutral because they aren't as directly involved, despite being the main, the main target demographic. In terms of engaging with our stakeholders, our plan is to, well, obviously engage in our activities and hand in our deliverables in time and present everything in the rapid scrums and, listen to Tim's advice. We're meeting his requirements, so to speak. With students, our main plan is to get feedback and include their needs and ideas in development as much as possible. Because educators aren't as large a group as students, we're mostly just going to keep the ideas of teachers involved, thinking of opinions, and basically seeing eye to eye with them with project goals. Basically just trying to make sure that things are up and board with teachers. It's monitoring. The next thing that we're looking at is the project roles and responsibilities. Once again, this is a thing that we talked about previously, but we're mostly all developers, but I guess just mostly to in order to have a project manager, I have elected to be project manager and just look at things from a different perspective. Yeah, I guess the next thing we're doing is project scope.
So the project scope statement has two primary things, the deliverables and the exclusions. So first of all, we would like to design a web page, a low fidelity prototype kind. Then we would implement the basic note taking functionality, and further on the other features such as share notes and the enhanced chat. We also have a plan to employ preferences and then later on security features. The things we excluded for this are the support for mobile phones and tablets, and we would wish to support only desktop and text. Another thing we excluded is the operating system support, and we will be supporting only major browsers. Up next is the GitHub project board, Kanban.
So here we have the GitHub project board, Kanban board with the envisioned MVP. Right now, all our user experiences that are displayed here as user stories are marked as MVP. Of course, that'll be subject to change. So quickly running through the core user functionalities or user experiences that we foresee is, as a user, you'd want to be able to organize the notes and access and sort them by relevant groupings. As a student, you'd want to know what important information was mentioned in the chat room without having to read through all the chat logs necessarily. As a student, you'd want to have the option to share notes with your peers or access theirs in the event that you or others have missed notes. And as a student, you'd want to be able to take notes on a laptop so that you can have them saved and then access them from online anywhere else. And finally, as a user or as a student, you'd want to be able to make an account so that you can make and share notes. I should say as a user, since there could be teacher users as well as student users. Next, we'll talk about the RACI chart. A RACI chart is pretty simple since we all decided to take on tasks equally and do everything together. There isn't really much for splitting things up into various work packages. So you'll notice on the left, in the left column, all we have is completing project activities. And underneath that, we've got project activity feedback. So for completing the activities, all of us, the developers, are all responsible, accountable, will be consulted and informed, whereas Tim will be consulted and informed as the project sponsor. Then with regards to project activity feedback, Tim, our project sponsor, will be responsible and accountable for providing that feedback on the completed activities. And the team members will be consulted and informed. So informed when we receive the feedback and consulted in that regard as well. We can consult further with Tim if we had any questions. Finally, we have the team reflection. I'll talk about the first point here. If the next person would like to jump in after, that'd be great. So how did we feel about this project activity? Overall, we felt it was an okay activity. We did enjoy learning about and completing the various documentation, but some of the documentation we felt forced answers and had vague backing. For example, who exactly are the stakeholders was a question that came up. And how does one go about determining who might be a stakeholder? Like, what process do you go through to actually determine who is a stakeholder? So, sorry, I guess I can talk about this section here as well, is what I learned personally and as a team. So as a team, I learned that I definitely prefer working as a group because the thought of doing all this alone is overwhelming. And as an individual, that it's important to maintain open and thorough communication with everybody else.
I guess the thing I learned was to prioritize tasks and manage my time more effectively. I mean, you probably didn't hear it from me first, but this was a pretty tough week that this activity was set in.
And about me, I enjoyed working as a team. I enjoyed communicating with the members and getting to know different perspectives on one single thought.
And finally, what would we like more help with? Well, we'd like maybe some more examples given on the project documentation templates. We figured that this might help clear any interpretation misunderstandings. purely due to our lack of experience with such documentation. So if you've worked with this stuff before, you might have a good idea of what's expected. But if you haven't, then an example or two might be nice to guide us. So that wraps up our presentation, our vlog for today. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you again in the next project activity.